Hi, all. Thanks for being here. We're just going to give a minute for people to join and then get started. All right. All right. Welcome to the second session, everyone. Excited to be here. So we had a bit of a change in the dates, and I know it's been a couple of weeks, but we're excited to have you all back here with us. We're also recording the session, so we'll send it to folks who are not able to join the live meeting today. And our third session is scheduled for this Friday. So we'll have kind of two sessions back to back, and then our final session will be the next week itself. Before we get started, and I know we're still waiting for a few people in this call, let's start with a little activity. And this is called Pick a Picture. And essentially, we're just, getting started. It's the beginning of the week. For most people, I think for some, it's the end of a day. But what's one image on this slide that really kind of invites you to kind of pick that image? So what's one image that you would like to pick to maybe express how you're feeling right now, or how your day has been so far, if this is the end of your day? And let me start. I think I would pick number 8. I had the chance to take a lovely walk by a water kind of spree of sorts this weekend, and it was a lovely walk. It was a couple hours of just walking. It was really nice to just like be in the spring weather and listen to some sound of water. So that was lovely for me. Let me see, Rijwanul, let me invite you to go ahead and pick a picture that most reflects your current kind of state of being right now.
Uh, yeah, I guess I would go with the sixth one. So I had a good day, and currently I am actually looking over the exercise and all that. So looking forward to the session. So that's the state I am in right now.
Awesome. Do you want to pick someone else in this group?
Yeah, I guess I can see Jesse Jesse Karanja, if my spelling is not is okay.
Yes, surprisingly, yes. Lot of people confuse it. Thank you so much. I think I'd go for number 5. I do love myself some good music. I do work with music in the background, but today, surprisingly, I haven't, so I can feel there's something missing in my day. So probably after class, I'll be able to do that. So number 5 it is.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you want to pick someone else?
Um, Gail?
Hi. Hi. Okay, let's see. Well, I'm with number 2 because there was a power outage and my alarm didn't go off, and I woke up 20 minutes before class was going to start. And then I had to find, like, whoa, where's the charger? And now is the oh my gosh, I was just running around. And then I had a quick meeting with Abby beforehand, and he's just like, ding, 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 ding. He's on it. He's been working all day. And I'm like, wait a second, hold on, time out. I need my coffee. I've only been awake for 10 minutes. So I'm standing at an intersection a little confused, but I'm getting there. Thank you. Let's see. I'll pick, let's see who else is here. How about Wobel? That's just the name of your company. I know that's not your name. But yeah, let's see. John, right? John is your name? Your first name?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wobel's your surname. Okay, yes, John. Would you like to pick a picture? John, are you able to hear me? Global?
No.
Mm,
Should we continue on?
sure. I guess that's everybody then.
That is it for today. It's a smaller crowd. I think a couple of people have come in and gone. So we'll have to kind of take note of that as well. But yeah, thanks all for being here. If you're watching a recorded version as well, thanks for joining us. So this is the second kind of part of this 4-module course, and your first part of it was the first assignment, which many of you have been able to successfully submit. And we've got some comments coming your way. So I'll be emailing you your feedback. And shout out to Gail for just really well laid out and thoughtful comments and feedback on all of your assignments. And for the ones that have submitted, you're going to get an email from me with your original assignment along with the comments that you receive. And the idea is that you're able to incorporate that comment into the next iteration, which will be your final assignment. And that's going to be due in about 2 weeks' time. Today, we're going to focus on your problem statement. And on Friday this week, we're going to focus on your project request and your budget. And the idea will be that you'll work on one kind of consolidated assignment rather than 2 separate ones, just because of the duration between the second and the third session. So you'll get one link for all of these assignments as well. The final assignment, and this is really kind of important to think through, the final deliverable / assignment in this course is a living grant document, which is about 5 pages maximum, 3 to 5 pages. And this is your proposal that you're submitting to a funder for consideration. And what's going to happen after that is that we're going to review the proposal itself, write some comments, gather some questions for you. And then we're going to try to have a hot seat session, ideally for each of you, depending on who submits the final assignment. And this is an opportunity for you to practice a funder meeting, right? So for some of you, you've been able to meet with funders. You've definitely pitched your venture to many people, including Resolution. But for some of you, this might be a very brand new experience of being able to meet with a funder and answer their question. And all of these things, the final deliverable, your participation in the class, and your final assignment, along with the hot seat, they all come together in what we call funder readiness, right? So this course is really focused on funder readiness. And for the ones who are in this course, you're really trying to work towards becoming funder ready. And that involves writing a proposal, that involves showing up to the sessions, that involves this hot seat session where you have 10 minutes to answer questions. And we hope you're getting all of that kind of practice over the 4 sessions of this class. All right, so before we jump into today's module, I'd love for us to spend a little bit of time reviewing what we covered in week 1. Gail, and one thing I'm going to tag you on after in a second is discussing the You Be the Funder mentor text. And so in just a second, we'll kind of review that. But the big thing we're going to talk about in that recap is your story, right? So that's what we covered in our first session. We looked at the video of Intercambio, this organization that communicates their story through an anecdote or a story of one of their graduates, one of their participants, right? Past participants. We looked at how effective that can be in telling people the impact of the work that you do. We also looked at your mission statement, specifically looked at the idea of an 8-word mission statement and how do you build that out so that you have a lot of clarity when you're communicating with a funder about what it is that you want to achieve. And then finally, we looked at assets. So we looked at all of the things that help you do the work that you do, right? So we looked at mentors, we looked at past educational experiences, pilots, money raised, all of that, right? And we did a little fun exercise where everyone was interviewing each other to identify their partner's assets, and then we put it all together in one document. So all of that was the first session. We covered quite a bit. And the last part that we left off with was the You Be the Funder assignment. And so this was a reading that I passed on to you via email. I hope you had time to read it. And for now, I'm going to pass to Gil to kind of introduce this activity and then lead us through the first part of this mentor text activity.
Hi, and hello to some who have just joined. Yeah, I think the reason that we like to use other texts, right? Other grants written by peers, is because then it allows us to learn from our peers, to learn like, wow, I love the way they set up their paragraph. I love the way they did their introduction. I wouldn't probably use the same, budget diagram. It just allows us for having a way to learn what it is that other people might be doing, because often in this world of fundraising, I find that all you marvelous leaders are working hard on your project, you're writing your grants, and sometimes there's a little bit of a protection. Oh, I don't want to share with anybody what I'm doing, or I want to be really careful that I am not that people aren't copying me. But in some ways, I do think that borrowing and copying from one another is actually a really good thing, because there's people out there who are going to have a different word to describe similar work that you're doing. So we read a grant written by a past alum from a boot camp. And in the process of reading it, you get to pretend that you're a funder, put on your funding hat, so to speak, and look for those areas of this example that just think are super clear and they're working, and other parts of the grant that are not working and why, and use that as a way to have a conversation among the group. We do this in steps. So first we're going to be reading, and I think maybe you already have read, the part 1 of a grant that has the story and the assets and all of the things in there about the mission that you've been working on and that you sent to me and I read and commented on. So if we want to take a minute, if we have time, Abby, we can read through again this particular part 1 of Alias's grant. We can put it on the screen, and I'm going to ask you all to read it. And it's got a mission, it's got a story, it's got assets written by an alum. And take a minute while you're reading it and think through if it's working, what you like about it, what you don't like about it. And if you were a funder, would you continue reading based on this first, page or so? Okay, so let's all take a minute and read through.
Can you give me a thumbs up if this is full screen? Can you see it full screen on your side?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here now and pretending that you're a funder. You're somebody who's reading this to make a decision about giving money. And you have lots of grants to read, and you're a busy person. And you're just going to read the first part, which is what you've done, which is the mission and the story and the assets. And you now are going to, the first decision you're going to make, because this is what happens in the real world, is, are you going to continue reading? Are you going to say, oh gosh, yeah, I want to know more? Or are you going to set it aside and go to the next one? So the first thing I want to hear from you is, that is an answer to that question. Alex, I'm going to call on you. Alex, based on what you've read so far, pretending you're a funder, would you set this aside or would you continue reading? I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear us, Alex? Okay, let's go. Esther. Esther, are you there? All right, let's just someone jump in. Who is it? Is there? Oh, you're there. Yay. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So did you have a chance to skim again through the mentor text, the grant proposal?
Yes, I have looked at it.
Yes, great. And tell me
If I
now,
was this one,
would you continue reading? Is it compelling enough for you to continue reading?
I feel like there's something missing. Maybe I would look at it last, but not, I wouldn't continue reading to the last part.
And the reason you would not continue reading is because why?
I think, okay, I don't find the story very appealing. I feel like it's a bit sketchy. If someone spoke about it deeply, it would make a lot of sense. And then when I looked at the mission statement, it was very long. And I feel like the mission statement would have been more eye captivating. Like it would be a summary of everything they want to do and what they're looking forward to. So those could be the two major reasons as to why I might not continue reading.
Okay. Okay, great. So let's see. Rijwanul, I hope I'm saying that right. Did you think about the story and the mission?
I find the mission specific enough to address what they are actually trying to do. Like they are very specific that they are making a rooftop sign for the voluntary firefighters. So,
Right.
so I found the assets part very compelling, that their government approved the sign and all that. So yeah, I will continue reading on.
Yeah. And what did you think about the story that was told there about, you know, what had happened when a fire occurred and firefighters couldn't get there in time? Did you find that pretty moving or not?
Yeah, in terms of the story, in the background part, so I was firstly a bit confused what they were trying to do, because I was not familiar with that scenario about volunteer firefighting. So, but later when I got to the part that people didn't know that I am a volunteer firefighter rushing to the fire station. So at that part, I actually got connected with the story. But before that, I was a bit confused that what are they actually trying to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there's some very compelling parts of the story. And I think that they have some really interesting assets. They got some money already from some investors. Yeah, it is pretty amazing to think that a volunteer fire person is trying to get through traffic to do their volunteer work to help save somebody, save a life because a house is burning, and that there's just too much traffic. And it as somebody, for me as a funder, I'm like, wow, absolutely, that should be fixed. and to have a sign on the top of the car, that seems pretty doable. I'm pretty drawn in. Jesse, what comments do you have about this? Do you find it interesting, or is there any other points that were confusing to you about this first part one?
Yeah, definitely, Gal. Firstly, on the question of I would continue reading it, I think as a founder, I do know the time that goes into search. So I think I'd just give them the benefit of doubt and finish the whole thing. But I think, as Esther said, the moment I read the mission statement, mine is not even on the length, but really what it said. I thought there was no alignment with the problem, pretty much. When I hear that the problem is firefighters getting to the burning house, for example, I think I envision two things. One, as you said, maybe easier passage to the place, or even more importantly, adding or increasing the number of fire stations, making sure that the proximity to different places is even closer, etc. And also feel like for such a problem or such a solution, it will need a lot of government goodwill and input, which clearly doesn't have. Because even for the firefighters, they still need to go to government-owned and government-run fire stations to get the equipment and go. And so, yeah, so there are a lot of misalignments pretty much, and I'd have questions about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you would continue reading just to find out a little bit more.
Yes. Just give them the benefit of doubt. Probably, hopefully there's something better down there here.
Yeah, it's so interesting because many funders will be so compassionate, so much like, oh, this is definitely a problem I want to know more about. And they will, when they understand the seriousness, right? They will want to keep reading. But if at the beginning there's some confusion about mission, or if there's some confusion about whether or not the idea is viable, right? They're going to take those confusions into the next part, right? So it's good to give someone the benefit of the doubt. I agree. I think that's the way we want to be reading. But if something pops up at the beginning and it didn't make sense, I'm going to hope that I get an answer to that when I spend more time reading it. So this has been great. Thank you for the feedback. Any other comments? And yes, Alex, you would keep reading. John, how about you? Would you keep reading as a funder? I'm not sure if.
Yeah, I would keep reading because, like, okay, I related it in one of the experience or my personal experience, because I was reading and I have been in some area of emergency, and initially it was a bit confusing, but when I went on reading, like before finishing like the last paragraph, I got to see like the emergency and the response team, like how they put those signs that to call for emergency. I went on getting interested in the story because I was relating to some situation I went through. So I would say maybe if I had not related it to my personal experience, I wouldn't get that much interest, but because I have been in some similar situation, I got to continue reading and understand, knowing how they are responding to such an issue, and then the solution they are giving and how they are approaching. Yeah, I got to understand that it requires some government approvals to get some equipment and all that, which also brings question like, do you have some agreements or partnership or the experience you have into that? Yeah, that's how I got it.
Yeah, that's a really great point. If we relate to it personally, we've had a similar story, right? Or we know somebody who suffered in that way. I agree that draws us in. And I think another point you make that's very good is that we're going to be thinking, wow, this is a great idea. And can he do it? Or is he going to try to do too much? Or has he forgotten about something along the road, right? So all of these are wonderful points that your readers are human beings first, right? They're going to have compassion. They're going to want to know more. They're going to want to help, but they're also going to be very discriminating, or they're going to be discerning, and they're going to be thinking about, wow, is this too much? Or are they going to try to break this down? They're going to start making some assumptions about how you're going to solve the problem right from the start when you start to explain the problem. Great. Well, I hope this has been helpful. It's always fun. Next week, you'll read part 2 of this same grant. And we'll come together and talk about whether or not some of our questions were answered, whether it got more confusing, less confusing. As a funder, would we continue to want to read more? Okay, what's next, Abby?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gail. And one of the words that came up a lot in this discussion was around problem and understanding the problem itself. And I thought that was quite interesting because we will actually be spending today's time talking about problem. And I'm going to share my screen here real quick. There we go. So second part of this, or the second module of this workshop is focused around identifying and clarifying your problem statement. And this is oftentimes the second piece of what gets asked in your proposals, right? So the first part is always your story, your mission, your assets / traction. And then the second part is oftentimes focused on the problem. And this is where they're oftentimes trying to understand your knowledge on the problem, right? What kind of understanding do you have of this issue? And does it come from just a personal experience, which is fine? Or does it also balance with data and understanding of the landscape, as we call it, right? And oftentimes people assume that a problem statement is essentially just stating what the problem is, right? It sounds as easy as that, but there are actually 4 different layers to this. And so we're going to break this down in the next 45 minutes or so. And then we're going to get some time to actually practice this with your specific ventures as well. Now, heads up, this is a workshop, and so I will invite you in a minute to come and talk, and you'll need your microphone. If your microphone isn't working, or if there's a lot of background noise, you can participate by putting your responses in the chat. So if you are aware that you have a difficult time participating, please be ready to type your responses on the chat so that we can engage with you in this workshop itself. And so here's what the problem statement is, right? The problem statement is the second part of the 4 key elements of any proposal writing process. And what you're trying to answer is this question: what is the problem that your organization is solving? That's as simple as that, right? But there's a bit of a depth into what that means, right? It means trying to actually break down problem into specific considerations. And so the first consideration is context. What's the current situation? What are some existing partners or existing colleagues who are doing similar work? Sometimes this is also considered a landscape study, right? So in different proposals, you will have different title, but they're oftentimes asking you the same question. Do you understand who else is trying to solve this problem, and what have they tried? And the reason why this is important is that oftentimes, or very often actually, we see in social entrepreneurship and in social impact space, organizations are trying to use the same solution to solve a problem that has existed for generations that has never worked, right? So you're essentially just going back and doing the same thing that many people have tried before, and that oftentimes comes from a lack of understanding of what someone else has done. And so it's also important to understand that landscape. So that's the first part of this. The second part is looking at the gaps, right? So what is something that people are doing? What are some of the things we could be doing in an ideal case? And what are some of the gaps in the current situation? And that's ideally the place where you are going to be mostly involved. And this usually leads you to your third piece, which is the problem specifically that you are going to focus on, right? So based on this gap that we understand, what is the problem that you're going to focus on? It might be that there are many gaps, right? And that is very likely that the community that you're working in, there might be 5, 6 different gaps that are there between an ideal state and its current state, right? And with your limited resources, with your time and with your energy, you can potentially only focus on one gap or maybe 2 gaps at a time. You can't necessarily try to tackle everything, right? You just won't be able to at least in the earlier stages. And so you want to start with one kind of gap that you can focus on, hopefully then build up, and then eventually you can do more things as well. And the fourth part of this, which is actually not specifically related to problem, it's actually related to your solution, is what's the specific solution that you're focused on. So this is where you're going to actually give a very clear answer to the question of what are you doing, right? How are you going to solve the problem? And you don't want it to be super broad. So improving the human condition is not a solution itself. It's definitely an end, but you do have to explain the means to that end, right? For example, adding solar lights to lighten dark streets in your neighborhood, that is very specific, and that how is what we want you to answer in this part. Now, one key difference between a problem statement and a mission statement, which we talked about last session, is that mission statement is a lot about the end goal, whereas the problem statement is actually identifying the how. It's talking about the journey itself, right? How do we break down the journey into simple, clear steps itself? So again, the four sections that I mentioned in a different way or a different visualization. And these questions might be helpful guiding questions for you to use to be able to go back after our session today and just start writing answers to these questions, right? What's the context that I'm working on? What are some of the gaps that I can identify? What's a specific problem that I want to solve? And what's the solution that I want to offer, right? And if you have a team or if you have co-founders, this is an excellent activity to do earlier in your journey because it allows for you to align on the same problem. This number 3 is sometimes very, very important to, not sometimes, always very important to align on this early in your journey, because sometimes if you have a co-founder or other people, let's say we have a team of people and you've been working, and turns out you thought you were solving one type of problem, and someone else in your team, or let's say your co-founder, is solving a different kind of problem, that mismatch of alignment can be a pretty big problem, especially if you've kind of started executing different solutions and you basically have different priorities. And so our recommendation is that you actually do this activity as a team if you can, as much as possible. If you don't have a team, of course, do this by yourself, and we're here to help provide you feedback and ask you questions as well. Questions before we look at an example here? So let's look at one example from an organization called Impart Reading. And this was a workshop that we did with them, and we broke it down into 4 sections. The first section, as I said, is context. What is already working? In this community where we are working, or Impart Reading is working, children in the community between ages 8 to 10, they already have access to basic education that's offered by the government, which is awesome, right? That's, that schools are already existing and there's some kind of basic primary education in the school. Excellent. That's the first step. And the second step is identifying the gaps, what's not working, right? Now, what we learned, or Impart Reading learned, was that 73% of the schools that are existing in their communities, they don't have any libraries with books. They definitely don't have any textbooks or fiction or even other additional books. This really limits the ability for children to read and especially grow their language skills such as English, right? And now English language oftentimes connects with job preparedness and being able to access further education, all of these things, right? So it's basically limiting the ability for children to be able to access all of these resources down the road. Now, the specific problem that Impart Reading wanted to focus on was to improve the English proficiency level for children through improving the practice of reading, right? Improving reading practice in the schools. And so they're very, very specifically focused on English language proficiency. And the way they want to solve this, their 4th step, is by, number 1, providing children with library facilities. So going into these existing schools and building libraries is their solution. And number 2, they're going to negotiate with the school to have extracurricular activities where children are engaged in learning, or in reading, sorry. And so essentially they're negotiating with the school so that they can have 1 hour per week where all children will pick a book, in this new library that they're going to build, and they're going to read something for fun, something to learn, something to, do together. It's really just kind of getting that habit of reading in children. They started with something really broad, right? They focused on education in general. They then looked at libraries in the schools itself, and then they very much focused on one specific thing, which is English language proficiency. And their specific solution, the exact thing they're going to do, is two very clear things. If I am a funder, or even if I'm a teammate or a partner, if I can understand this journey of where they started with, what kind of context they're working with, what's the specific gap that they've identified, and what their solution is, I feel like I have a clear idea of what I can support them with, right? It's likely that I can support them with maybe funding to build a library. Maybe I can donate books to help, put enough books on the shelves. Maybe I can help with training to support with some of these extracurricular activities. Or if I'm a government official, maybe I can help with changing some policy. There's very clear action item, right? To get to that place, it helps to really break this down into these categories itself. Questions on this example before we invite you for a little workshop? Gail, I might be missing anything here, so feel free to jump in here as well.
No, it's very clear. And I think that you've explained this journey, let's say, very clearly. And a funder is going to get it right away, right? Kids are in school, but the majority of these schools don't have a lot of books. And most funders, most people will say, well, I don't get it. How can you be in school and not have books and not enough books? And then to understand the importance between reading and speaking and having language proficiency, that's also, oh yeah, of course, if there's books in the school and they're reading them, then their English is going to improve, and then all their other skills are going to improve. And what's nice about this is that it's not just focusing, in this case, on, say, science books. It's just saying books in general. And that maybe opens up some funding opportunities. If this were someone who wanted to look at improving STEM curriculum, they could possibly write it the same way, but focus on 73% of these schools have no science books. Then suddenly the reader's like, well, okay, we better get some science books in there. So I think when you're writing your problem statement, doing it in these steps, like Abhi has shown you, will really be helpful for you in your communication.
Thank you, Gail. And yeah, questions from the group? Anything that stands out for you? Anything that's unclear? Question. All right, then let's do a little workshop. So I think we're about 4 or 5 people. So I'm going to invite you to come off mute, and I'd love for you to kind of give us a quick response. You don't have to think through this a lot. It definitely does not have to be perfect. And what we're going to try to do is answer these 4 questions, right? So what's working, what's not working, what's the problem you want to focus on, and what's the solution that you want to offer? So let's see, Rizwan, maybe I can invite you to go first. Tell us a bit more about your venture, and more specifically, what's already working in the community where you are working or where you exist.
Yeah, so my venture is blood bank. So we are working for blood donation, and what is working is there is a requirement of 30 lakhs blood donation per year, and 60 lakhs bloods are getting managed, and we analyze 37 apps. When people need blood, they can go to those apps and request for blood. And besides that, there are Facebook groups. So when people need blood, it's up to them to manage it, and not the hospitals. So they can post on Facebook groups, and through that they try to manage a blood donor. So that's what already working.
Okay. And could I clarify this? So the requirement is that 30 lakh blood
13, 1 and 3.
13 lakh blood bags have been donated.
It is a requirement. Only 6 lakhs gets managed, and 7 lakhs doesn't get managed.
Okay.
So
Only
that's due to the lack of blood donors actually.
manage. Let's say. Okay, and then you said 37 different apps that exist for blood donation. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and then several Facebook groups are also existing which coordinate blood donation. Okay, so
Right.
tell us a bit more about what's not working then in this current situation.
Right. So as I said, there are 13 different apps, but the problem is that those apps are outdated and not getting maintained. So right now the apps are available in Play Store, but if you request for blood, so no one is actually responding in most of the apps. So that's one problem. And secondly, with Facebook groups, the problem is that Facebook groups are centered on your friend zone, like depending on how many friends you have or how many active members in the groups have. So that plays a vital role in the time which for the management of blood donor. So in general, it takes around 2 to 6 hours to find the blood donor through these Facebook groups or even your personal account if you have one. So
All right.
that's the problem.
Awesome. And just to make sure I don't get the numbers wrong, is it 30 different apps that exist?
Yeah, it's the same, like 37 different apps, but
Okay.
but most of them are not getting
Not being used.
maintained.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Wow, that's a lot of apps that are out there. That's, yeah, very interesting. Okay, then talk to us about what specifically is the problem that you're focusing on.
So we are also focusing on building an ecosystem that actually connects with existing blood organizations and donors. So it's like other apps, but we are also trying to bring in the smaller organizations as well. Like if you are in a rural area, we want that blood organization to be on our application as well, and we will maintain that for a long term. That's our goal, and through that, what we want to do is minimize the time to like 30 to 1 hour. So we want the blood to be getting managed within 30 to 1 hour instead of 2 to 6 hours.
So 30 minutes to 1 hour. All right, and that was around 2 to 6 hours before, at least on the Facebook group.
Right.
What's the number on the apps? Do you know how long it takes in the app to get blood right now in the other apps?
No, not really, but what I see is there is no response at all in most of the cases. So
Okay.
people tend to go to the Facebook groups.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. All right, so your solution, and this is the final piece. So your solution, can you tell us in one sentence what it is?
In one sentence, we want to make a platform that works on web, mobile, and other messaging channels like Messenger, Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, Telegram, that connects the blood donation organizations and donors and patients with each other. I guess that sentence is not well organized, but yeah, we want to make the platform available to web, mobile, and as well as messaging apps. So people don't have to install a separate app just for blood donation.
Okay, so available on web, mobile, and an app.
Messaging apps.
Messaging apps, yeah. All right.
Can I jump in here and ask a question?
Yes, Gail, go for it.
So when I read your first assignment, I noticed that part of your mission was to create privacy for people.
Yeah.
And you wanted to protect that, I think you said. You wanted to be able to protect privacy. How does that build in here? So is there an inherent lack of privacy because it's Facebook? Or
Yeah, actually, like when I require blood, I put on the phone number publicly in Facebook or in other apps. There is a whole list of donors with their phone numbers and all. So that's publicly visible to anyone. So anyone can do anything with that data. And what we are trying to do is we are not going to publicly make those data available unless both not unless we will only share the donor's phone number with the patient and patient's phone number with the donor only if they both agree to continue with each other.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I asked that because if I were reading your grant and right from the start in your mission statement, you talk about privacy, I would want to also see how your problem statement and your solution are also mentioning that, or take it out of the mission statement. You know, I just was looking for some consistency there. Yeah.
That was a very important question. And yeah, just because I was going through this first time, so this
That's okay. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, this is excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, and in addition to what Gail said about the consistency, the piece of this that I think will be interesting is to, I guess in one way, ideally frame it as one kind of big challenge, right? So like you mentioned these 30 apps, and I think what will be interesting is to look at some numbers here. So like how many people are using these apps? This is the kind of data you can potentially get from App Store or Play Store. So I think it'll be interesting to look at some of the existing data and say there are 30 apps, and if I read your proposal and it says we're going to build another app, I'm thinking, why are these 30 not working, and can we make them to work better, right? That's my first question. I'm assuming you have a very clear answer, and it does seem like you have your platform essentially will be like essentially it can work with multiple platforms. It can work with WhatsApp and Messenger, which is great, but I think there needs to be a bit more clarity on why is this not working, right? Why are these 30 like apps not working? And so one assignment for you, Rizwanul, is to look at the existing apps, get some of that data, and really look at like, okay, out of these 30 apps, 70% of them have less than 200 people using it. And it's basically only people that are recipients that are using it. Donors don't use it because it's too overwhelming. Or 5%. I mean, that kind of data that you can get from these apps, I think will be very important for you to make a case for why your platform will be different, right? So that's one kind of feedback that comes to mind there. I do think that what you talk about, how you're minimizing blood time or blood donation time, is a very important data. And this is actually very similar to the case study that we read before, how essentially the person, the alias who wrote the essay or the grant, he talked about how you could reduce the time of response, right? And so essentially what you're doing is you're reducing response time by maybe even 200%, depending on how quickly. Like if you do it in 30 minutes, that's a really good response rate. And so you want to be able to make that case that you are faster, but just kind of explaining that a bit more in your problem statement, I think will be important as well. So yeah, this is a great start, and yeah, excited to read the next iteration of this. Great job.
Yeah, thank you. And I will look into those assignments. Yeah,
yes,
thanks.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, so let's, Rizwanul, I'm going to ask you to invite someone else from this group to do one more practice round here. So feel free to invite someone else or nominate someone else.
Yeah, I guess I can ask Adiki Ishtar if my spelling is right. Yeah, Adiki.
Esther? Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm right here.
Awesome. All right, so can you give me a quick reminder of your venture's name?
Uganda.
Oh, sorry, that broke off.
Where City, Uganda.
Okay. I think I heard some of it, but I didn't hear the last. I think there was a name in the beginning here, but okay, we'll come back to this in a bit. Let's talk about your first step. So what is already working, or what's already happening in the context of the place where you're working and the issue that you're working? What's working already?
So just to give you the context, I am working on people with disabilities. I'm working with people with disabilities, so I intend to scale them. So it's already working.
I'm sorry. Is it just me or is the voice completely broken for you all? Yeah.
Oh, can you get me from here?
Better, better.
Yeah, so I was telling you just for context, I work with people with disabilities. So what is working is 9% of people with disabilities are employable, capable of work, and are willing to work.
Mm-hmm. Just do you say 90%?
9.
9%.
09.
Okay. And this
Yeah.
is specifically in Uganda, this data?
Yes, in Bulla district specifically.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Anything else that comes up when you think about what's already working?
There are also some organizations that are willing to partner with us to alleviate the problem.
Are these like government organizations or local organizations?
Both government and local.
All right. All right, fantastic. And then anything else that comes to mind when you think of like what's already happening? Anyone else that's doing similar work in your region, maybe?
Nothing much really.
Okay, perfect. So let's now jump into step 2, which is what's not working. What are some of the big gaps that you're seeing right now?
I see there's a lot of stigmatization.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of should I say, yeah, it's the same as discouragement.
Mm-hmm.
People believe that people with disabilities should not come on board. I don't know how to bring that up, but no one believes in them that they can do the work that they're capable of doing.
Mm. There's a lot of kind of
Yes.
marginalization and yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else that comes up in any kind of other data points that you've heard of or read about this situation itself?
There's also I think basically that is it.
Okay, that's perfectly
Just
fine.
jump in here for a second.
Oh yeah.
I had a sense when I read your assignment with your, story and mission that there's just nobody offering training specifically for people with disabilities, right? That there might be people who know how to make shoes, right? Like you, and you went to a special training for it, but that the training isn't necessarily adapted or, made available to somebody who has a disability. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is very true.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, that's a pretty big gap as well. Super. Okay, so then we jump into the third part, which is the specific problem that you are focusing on.
I am focusing on unemployment people with disabilities. Especially based on the fact that 15% of the population in the district is disabled, have a form of disability. And maybe just to give you the context, that is majorly because there's a lot of landslide in the district, and also there's a lot of illiteracy. And of course, issues like stigmatization. So all that have led to unemployment of people with disabilities. And they also lack mentorship.
Sorry, would you repeat the last one more time?
They also lack mentorship to adapt these skills in case the skills were there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So focus on employment for the 15% of the population in your district who also lack mentorship. And so then talk to us about your solution. Your solution is?
My solution is to train them in craft shoemaking skills as an alternative revenue stream. So basically, I intend to get them from what I talk
Sorry,
to
your volume is
the
cutting off again. I'm so sorry. Would you repeat that one more time?
So my solution is to train people with disabilities in craft shoemaking skills as an alternative revenue stream.
Okay, perfect.
Along with other skills, such as financial literacy, marketing skills, and then I intend to offer psychosocial support to mitigate the
And specifically, you're saying at this point that your specific solution is in the making of shoes?
yes.
Okay. All right. And then focused on, but then there's also financial literacy marketing skills that are offered additionally.
Yes, and mentorship.
And the mentorship is also just like focused on business mentorship.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Anything else that you're focusing on in terms of solution? Anything else that you're offering? This is great already. But...
Psychosocial support. I don't know if you've indicated psychosocial support.
Oh no, yeah. Providing.
This one is to mitigate the stigma that they go through.
Uh-huh. All right. So that's
Yeah.
kind of related to that. Okay. Perfect. This is fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that your internet or there was a bit of cutting, but you were fantastic and great job. This is very clear. Gail, any thoughts or any questions for Esther at this point?
No, I want to just say that this is really, again, a great exercise to go through, and it's helpful to me when I was to see how you answer and address your problem statement based on what I read in your first assignment, right? Because again, as I'm thinking, oh, I'm reading about the mission, I'm reading the story, and then wait, this is the problem. Is that related to what I just read? So it's been good to have this dynamic kind of back and forth conversation about it where I can ask some clarifying questions. I also think it's very helpful in this case that the skill training of the shoemaking is very, very specific, because that's something that a funder can, there's only one specific skill right now, right, that Esther wants to train them in. And Esther, from what I read in your assets, you have a lot of experience making shoes. So you're the right person to to be teaching that. And then also just be prepared that when you say provide psychosocial support, provide marketing, that you're going to explain to me later, well, what's psychosocial support? Does it mean that there's going to be a group therapist there, right? Or does that mean just know that I believe you're going to have it and you're going to want to be able to answer what those are specifically. But this is a really good representation of your journey, and it echoes what you wrote in your first assignment.
Ooh, thank you.
That's awesome. Great job. All right, Esther, you can pick. I think we can do one last person. So you can pick one last person who will go next.
Alex.
All right,
Okay,
Alex.
you next.
Alex, are you there?
Yes. Hello?
Right. Yes, I hear you. Could you start off with the name of your venture real quick?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Can you start off by telling us the name of your
Yes, I can hear you.
Alex, can you hear me?
My understanding is that it's Unega Farm, UNEG.
My venture is Unega Farm.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so then let's jump in. So first part, and you've seen this with a couple of examples already. What is something that's already existing or working in your community? when it comes to this particular issue?
Yeah, what's already working is that, okay, in my context of agriculture, we are working with smallholder farmers who are producing variety of agricultural products, but they do not have a consistent market or favorable market for their produce.
Okay, so and that might be the next step, is what's not working is they don't.
Sorry?
So what is not working is that they don't have a market for their produce, but what's working is that they're already producing a variety of products, right? Are there other
Yes,
organizations that
they
are
already
working?
produce.
Mm-hmm. Are there other organizations that are working in your community, Alex?
In my community, except there is a government organization. It's called NADS. It comes once in a while, like when they have a program to do the training, capacity building of farmers and all that. But rarely do we have organizations that help in market linkages and maybe value addition for agricultural products.
All right. Amazing. All right. So farmers then, as a result of that, they don't have a market for their produce. Where do they sell their produce right now? Or do they consume it locally, or
Yeah, normally on I don't know how I can describe it, but we have, yeah, they consume them locally, but we normally have like central market at the sub-county level. So at the sub-county, we normally organize like weekly markets, but not for only agricultural products, but for like a general market there for people to get supplies, different products, clothing, and all that. So farmers tend to plan their harvest and prepare to walk them. Those that come maybe 10 kilometers, 30 kilometers, to reach that place where, like on that marketplace, that they tend to bring them that side. So maybe if you have you have a neighbor who wants 2 bunches of matoke or 5 kilograms of beans, you can connect and sell. But normally their market is that sub-county or regional market that is organized once weekly, and people have to move or carry them on bicycles, on some carry them on their head, others who have money or during a collective activity, they can hire a car and maybe 10 people can load their products and bring them to the market.
Makes sense. So the overall kind of process of selling right now is inefficient, essentially, because they're having to go pretty far, 10 to 30 kilometers on maybe bicycles or walking or sharing cars to be able to sell at the central market as well. Awesome. This is important data, and I think I'm asking just to kind of clarify that. Super helpful. Let's talk about the third step. So what's the specific problem that you are, or you would like to focus on?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So what's the specific problem that you are focusing on? There, as you kind of laid out, there are quite a different challenges, but what's the specific problem that you're focusing on?
Yeah, the problem is post-harvest handling of agricultural produce for smallholder farmers.
All right. And so then that really kind of leads to the solution itself is what are the different things that you're going to do to be able to, manage the post-harvest handling? What are the
Yeah,
different steps, let's say?
one is like an aggregation center.
Are you going to build it or establish it?
Where we can get produce from different. Sorry?
are you going to build it or establish the center, or are you going to rent a center?
Yeah, renting a center at the moment. Yeah, the goal is to build that center, but at the moment is renting, and where we collect produce from different smallholder farmers, because some of them have little amounts, or yeah, like few can reach like 1 ton, but most of them like they bring 200 kilograms, 300. So when we bring them, when we collect them, bring them to the aggregation center, that's where we do the drying, cleaning, sorting, and packaging. And some that we are able to produce, like to process and do value addition, we do that just also to generate more income than selling raw materials. So we do process and get more. For example, corn, we can process and get flour. Even cassava, we get it, dry it, and get cassava flour out of it.
All right. So turning kind of products into processed goods. And then are you also selling it?
Yes.
And I'm assuming you're going to sell it at a different market. Where do you sell it? Is it at a local farmer's market, or is it a different convenience store or something like that?
Yeah. We are trying to have outlets where we put most of our processed product, but also get like schools, hotels, different institutions, and supply them with such produce, for example, beans or flour, and even distribute to other retail and wholesale shops around the region.
All right. Fantastic. Anything else that you're going to be doing with as part of your solution? You already have quite a bit, but anything else I'm missing?
Not really specific. It's value addition on most of the agricultural products.
All right. Awesome.
Yes.
Gail, I'd love to hear your thoughts, initial questions.
Yeah, this is always just so lively and so interesting. And when I read your mission statement and your story, I did also go to your website. And I think that there's language on your website that speaks to this important part of being providing market access. So when you go back and look at your mission statement, somewhere along the line, you need to tell the reader early on about not only you say you want to be an advisor, an agricultural advisor, and just make it clear that, you're providing market access, because I think that's an important part here. And then I also just am wondering if, if you have a center, can you put tomatoes and cassava together in the same place? Like how are you gonna, as a funder, I'm like, wow, a center's great, bringing all this produce, but how do you manage what each kind of item, right, needs, right? Tomatoes need something different, right, than beans, and then cassava. So be careful that the drying and cleaning and sorting and packaging, right, is done in a way that is successful, right? Because there might be a funder who will ask about that. Yeah, I think that's that's the main questions that I had here, or comments.
Yeah, I think a couple of things that came up to my mind, very much agree with Gail's comments, and I think especially about the combination of products, right? If you're having so many different produce and they're coming at small quantities, so that's also another piece that I think gets brought up, is consistency of produce. Like, how do you make sure that there is some layer of like quality guarantee of sorts, right? You're not gonna kind of fall into this place of like you're buying all these things, 200 kilograms here, 200 kilograms there. At the end of the day, can you make sure that there's some kind of consistency? I think that'll be a big question that comes up as well. I think one piece that is interesting to talk about, I think it's not addressed in your solution yet, is the part of like distance. And so are you in this aggregation center hiring a truck? And if so, you might want to mention here when you talk about gathering produce that you're gonna send a truck to all these farms and like collect everything, or are farmers having to walk to your center to bring their produce, which again might be a lot of work for them, and how do you compensate them for that time, right? So I think that's one piece that needs to be more clear here. But yeah, it's a great idea, and value addition of agricultural product has shown to be effective in increasing income for farmers and creating a sustainable kind of source of revenue for the community. So overall, the concept is very clear, but I think there's a few questions that you'll have to answer in the, especially in the written part of this as well.
I think Alex had dropped off.
Oh no.
Or something.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, it's recorded, so I think we'll
yeah.
pass it to him.
Okay.
All right. So I think with that, maybe we can take a quick stretch break, maybe 1 minute or so. And then we can talk a little bit about some of the logos that we received last week, and then we can look at some of the assignments and pieces as well. All right. And we've lost quite a lot of people here. That's interesting.
Yeah, the internet connection can be sketchy sometimes. Yeah, okay.
All right. Alex, I think we lost you there for a second, but you're back.
A great picture, Alex.
Yeah. All right. So I think we shared a couple of other feedback to your, oh, and John is back. Okay. We shared a couple of thoughts to your problem statement. So we'll send this back to you so you can maybe review it over the next couple of days as you work on your second assignment as well. But yeah, it's a very clear kind of piece as well. And I'm sorry to hear that the internet is an issue. It's quite a bit of challenges with Wi-Fi recently for sure. but we're recording it and I'll upload it on YouTube and send it back to the group as well, so everyone else can watch this. All right, so maybe as we transition towards the last part of today, and I think we might actually be finished a bit earlier today than usual. I wanted to make sure we have enough time to do some. Yeah, I really appreciate all of you for being here with the Wi-Fi issues and everything. It's hard work and perhaps quite frustrating for you all, so appreciate you being here. So Gail, I know you had the chance to look at a couple of logos. I thought it would be cool to like put it all in a slideshow and just maybe give some feedback, some initial thoughts.
Yani
So here we have the
kwa sasa hivi ivyimba kwa kabiri kandi okuza kuliga
oh,
ibibaneze
someone else. Right. Is it just me or I can hear some.
Yeah, if you want to share them on the screen.
cyangwa
Can you see? I'm hearing some like
maneno
noise. Alex, I think I can hear you talking. I can't mute either. It's weird. Okay, well let's keep going. All right, so here are the logos, Gail. Can you see them?
Yes, I can. Yeah, this one, I just yum. It makes me want to have something to eat. It's delicious looking. And I like the live consciously, eat delicious. I don't know. I don't really have much else to add to this. I like the circularity of it. I like that there's the line of the text follows the line sort of looking up of the foods, and it just really goes well, I think, with what what the mission is. I do think I just had one question. I don't know if you know how to answer this, but I think that this is geared towards, employment, right, and livelihood for teenage moms. And I like the idea. I thought the writing in the first assignment was good, and I gave some feedback. But I just wonder if if there's an opportunity to think about how that market of people, like that I would be buying something from this important group, right, of teenage moms who need to make some money. And it's just a thought, and maybe you ponder it a little bit, or you talk to your team, and if it's telling me as a consumer that I'm purchasing from a very important group of people that I want to support. And the idea of living consciously, I hope that as a consumer, the things I spend my money on are sort of conscious decisions. But I would just think about maybe there's a tagline, or maybe there's another way that you build in information into this beautiful logo so that consumers understand that they're purchasing a product that's doing good, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's that is a socially conscious purchase. What do you think, Abby?
Yeah, for sure. I think very much agree. I think it actually tells quite a bit from the logo itself, and it's a good start. And there's just like room for a couple more like symbolic or significant kind of gestures that tells you who I'm buying from. And I think that makes a pretty big difference for sure. I also was thinking a little bit about this kind of space here and potentially an opportunity for something to happen here that just tells me a little bit more about who I'd be working with or supporting as a result of my purchase. And then the only thing I thought about is that like you want to make your logo as simple as possible. We talked about the swish of the Nike and all these logos which have like 4 letters and it tells you more than anything else. And so I'm thinking like Delish in itself, and obviously this photo in itself tells me that it's about food. I don't think we need foods here. Like it's not necessary. So maybe that tagline that Gail talked about could be incorporated here if we wanted to add some text there. But it's a good start. It's a great start to begin with. So, but yeah, it's like, how do I know this is a dessert restaurant? Because that's my first thought versus a restaurant that actually has a social impact, right? I think that's the part that's missing.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I have a friend who runs a yogurt company called Delish, and he sells yogurt, and it's they sell yogurt. That's what I assume with it. They're not doing anything directly socially inclined. So I think you might want to figure out a way to stand out there as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if
Oh.
if the participant is here who made this.
Mm-mm.
But that's okay. Yeah, I agree. The foods is a little too, it is mostly baked goods that's being, yeah, okay. Anyways, we can go on to the next one.
I think this one was the Siku Nijemi.
This is for Celia. She's not here either.
Yeah. Do you want to do some feedback, or shall we go to the next one?
I think we can go to the next one.
All right. So here's Bill.
Yeah. So, John, you've had quite a bit of time with your organization, and I went, excuse me, online, and I read an article, a newspaper article that featured your work with threshers, right? Like with rice threshing, I think.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. And so you have quite a bit of exposure, I think, already. And what I like about this is I'm assuming that this gear in the middle here is to make me think not only of the rice thresher equipment that you've produced, right? But also other sort of equipment-based projects that you're going to have. Tell me about the gear element in the middle. What does that represent for you? I know it's hard for you to talk. You had said that you have some background noise, so I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
please. Yes. So the wobble has a gear at the middle representing mechanization assistance we are providing to support our smallholder rice farmers.
Okay. So you're going to have more than the rice thresher that you're going to be? I see.
Exactly.
Okay. Because when I read your mission statement and your assignment 1, you said the mission statement you write says innovates rice threshers. So you're going to be doing more sort of equipment oriented innovation overall, right? In Ghana? Seems that way. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
And then with time, we would have to export some of the new technologies that we are going to develop to other countries, especially the African countries.
Right. Well, I guess I'd like to hear from other people. I think it's a bold, it's very, the gear is very powerful because it makes me think about equipment. It makes me think about, it doesn't necessarily make me think about like internet technology, but it makes me think about equipment. And then it goes with, it aligns a little bit with what I read in your first assignment about creating a better rice thresher so that it can, people can increase their margins. And especially you write in there that you want women to be empowered so that they can have more efficiency in their work. And so I guess by using it in letterhead and using it in your communications, I would just want to be clear that, you have these other things that you want to do aside from the rice thresher. And I don't know, maybe Abby can jump in here. I don't know how a logo like this that talks about all kinds of technology relates to one problem that's going to be expressed in a grant.
Yeah.
It's just finessing it, I guess.
Yeah. And I very much agree. And I think there is room, especially within the letters, because you played with one of the letters to like highlight a certain technology or a type of technology. But I wonder if there's room for it to be further kind of be more pronounced, let's say, in some of the other letters. Like I was thinking about the I, maybe the L. Is there a way to explain a little bit more of like what are the different ways in which you're going to support rice farmers? I also think that you're designing for the future. Like in the long term, it makes sense that you're doing multiple different technologies. But if you're starting with one, and to Gail's point, like if it's rice, you might want to make it a little bit more focused around rice farming and rice processing and technology for farmers, right? So I think that's also a bit that's something that we did with Little Big Fund. So if you look at our logo, it has the different elements of what it means to like spark a social entrepreneur's kind of fundraising journey, and you see that through the light bulb, and you see that through the bird flying, right? So you can actually do a lot of these side kind of periphery elements that you can incorporate here. And so one example that I thought of like within the eye is to be able to have some kind of something growing. Potentially that can be a good sign of, because I actually don't get agriculture from the first look. It actually looks a lot less like agriculture and a lot more like technology, like you're going to sell like physical technology, which seems like it's true, but it's also very related to agriculture. So where's the agriculture part, I think, is what I'm curious about here. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, were you going to say
I
anything?
think the idea was to make it a bit simpler so that it's not too complex when you are printing or others. That's why we only maintain the mechanization side, the gear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
definitely when you're printing it, it becomes a lot complicated if you have like a plant or like a rice farm or like that. It gets tricky for sure. I agree. I think that's a tricky part for sure.
And you could play around with the, I totally appreciate simplicity. And maybe you could play around with, if you were to take out technologies limited and then show technology through, some more visuals, or have a different tagline, like, bringing agricultural innovation to the world, or something like that. Then you're going to be communicating two different things, both visually and with the tagline. The technologies limited might just be implied through some of the visuals and maybe a tagline, but it takes time, right? I think you'll get there, right? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
And then
Okay.
this one is
Yes. So this one is really, really strong. I think I like the different, I like that there's just two colors. I like the circles. I get the, farming part of it with the visual of the seedling, let's say that is coming up, and grow more with expert guidance. I think that that's very catchy, and it does go with what I interpreted from your mission statement, from the writing in your your first assignment, right? That you want to be agricultural advisors, right? I don't know. I don't really have much more, to say, unless there would be some way to place it geographically. I don't know. What do you think, Abby?
Yeah, it's a very strong logo. I love the branding. It seems like you've actually done some really good branding work on this. So this is really like it's a strong logo. My initial thought was around the two circle, like the outer circle and then the inner circle, and like what that kind of refers to, and if that's necessary. Like, would it help to just have like one outer circle and then the circle be removed so that you just have like, the logo itself? I don't know how that would look, but that would just kind of keep it a bit clean. My first thought when I'm reading the tagline is that, like, it's interesting because my first reaction is that Farm Pro, I'm thinking of actually technology. Like, I think of these technologies that are like pro. And then the second one is a little bit less technology and a lot more human, right? It's actually guidance and advice and mentorship. So the name and the tagline for me don't necessarily go together as much. The second part of this, well, I guess the part that I think we have to learn about more in the solution section is also whether there is elements around market access, whether there's elements around other things that you would do with this. And so if that's a focus, then you might also be limiting yourself if you just focus on expert guidance. So yeah, think more about the tagline. How does that tagline connect with the name itself? The Farm Pro, I think, is something that it sounds really cool. It's like MacBook Pro, right? Like it's like, oh wow, that sounds really awesome. But I think I would want to know more about what that means and what's the light version of this, I guess.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about logos. I hope that you're all finding this interesting because in the process of sort of deconstructing, right, what messages come from the logo, I hope that it also helps you to think through, well, gosh, is this going to be saying what I wanted to say in my mission statement? And if I have the logo and then I write a few lines underneath it, is somebody going to make the connection? So there is this back and forth play between how you show what you're doing and then how you describe what you're doing. So it's always a dynamic exercise. Thank you. Is there another one to look at? Oh yeah, this is the craftware city. I like the simplicity of it. I like that it has a look, the font choice of the craftware city. It's got a sense of it gives it texture. It goes along with something being made. It seems more I don't know what the right word is. It's not totally finished, right? And polished. And it has a sense of craftiness, I guess, to it for me. So I think that works very well. Shoes, belts, bags, wallets. And again, as in, what we've discussed before, I think it would be worth considering how you might communicate in the logo or in the tagline underneath the logo, who I'm buying from. Like, I'm buying shoes from somebody who has just recently learned to make shoes, that they have been disabled and they've been marginalized and they've not been included in society, but now here they get a chance to learn a skill, make a shoe, and then, wow, I want that product from that person. So somewhere to align let the consumer know what she's purchasing or who she's purchasing from. Yeah, I don't know how you do that, but maybe it's, shoes, belts, bags, wallets made by or sourced from or something like that. What do you think, Abby?
It reminds me of this company. It's called Conflict Women. I think that's the name of the company. And I would check out their website. I can't remember their tagline, but actually Gail's point very much hits the mark on that one, because essentially what they do is they're selling. I mean, when I say Conflict Women, you kind of, that's the name of the venture. You already kind of sense like who you might be buying from. And on their logo, on their website, they actually have like a little tagline which actually clarifies it more. And I think that's almost stronger than even mentioning what you sell. Like shoes, belts, bags, wallets, great. I can already tell you're probably selling it because I look at the logo. So you could use the space for made by ... right? So I think you can also kind of use that a bit more clearly there as well. But do check out Conflict Women. I think it's called Conflict Women Limited, and they're based in Trinidad and Tobago. And yeah, I found like their marketing around the products is very fascinating. So it might be a good inspiration for you there. We're going to wrap up in a second. The one thing I want to share before we do is our assignment for this upcoming week. So, oh, there we go. So
Did we have a logo from Rijwano?
Didn't, oh yeah, I was gonna ask Rizwan. It didn't open for me. I don't know if you got to see it, Gail.
No, I couldn't get it open either, and I just didn't know if it was on my end. But
it wasn't opening. Yeah,
okay.
if you want to send it to me via email, Rizwan, we can definitely review your logo. The Google link that you had shared, it didn't open on my end as I was trying to put it in.
Okay, I will share it by email again. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So our next session is coming up on Friday, and we will send a follow-up right after the session with the second part of the mentor text. So today we read the first part. The second part, we're going to discuss the problem statement. We're going to read the problem statement at the beginning of next session. After that, after next session, you're going to have 2 joint assignments to write your problem statement and your project description or project request. And next week, we're going to try to offer some office hours for you to connect one-on-one with Gail and I ask us some questions, have a conversation about your priorities. They're short, they're about 15 minutes per person, but it's ideal for you to come prepared with some questions, with some challenges you're sitting with. It can really be a broad set of things that you want to talk about in that 15-minute time. And we're going to be there to just help support you in any way possible. And the assignment will be due on Wednesday next week. And I will send you a Google document form once again so that you can submit it via the link. Most people seem to be able to submit it without a problem, so that was good. I will send a similar link and you can submit it there. Thank you all for participating and for your active engagement. The ones who have been able to make it to the session, we especially appreciate you because especially with Wi-Fi challenges and internet connectivity issue, it means a lot that you're showing up. And that is really part of the funder readiness that we talk about, right? It's not just about writing a great proposal, it's showing up once in a while, sorry, not one every single time, and being able to, talk and exchange ideas and listen and learn from each other. All of that really forms the funder readiness of a venture and a social entrepreneur. So hope you feel good about that and are proud of yourself for just showing up and doing the work as well. Gail, any final words before we wrap up?
No, I just thank you, Abhi, and it's always really great to have you present, even if you have to leave and come back and leave and come back, because we are a team working together, right? Abhi and I have some experience and some ideas, and we have a structure for this class, but so much of the learning is informed by your presence, by your experience, by your opinions, by your, sort of risk-taking that happens in the moment. So thank you all for hanging in there.
All right, we're going to see you on the 26th, which is in 4 days time, and look forward to talking about project requests and budget and do some really fun workshops and activities as well. Thank you all. Really appreciate your participation and look forward to seeing you in a couple of days time. Take care all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
I think John had a question, so I can,
mhm.
stay back. John, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, please.
Go for it.
Yes, please. I would like to know if you can send the meeting recordings so that we can have a look at it.
For sure. I will
Thank
send,
you.
yeah, for this session, especially because a few people are missing, I'll send the video along with the email follow-up as well. All right. Thanks all. Appreciate it. Take care.